everyone, welcome back to While You Were Cleaning. Today I have a Dollar Tree DIY video to share with you. In today's video, I wanted to theme all of the DIYs around the wood dowels and skewers that you can find at Dollar Tree. So in the kitchen section, they have this 100-pack of skewers. And sometimes during the summer, you'll find these on an end cap, but I did find these hanging over by the utensils in the kitchen section. And then in the crafting section, you can find these wood dowels. They have a 15-pack of 6-inch wood dowels, and then they have a 10-pack of 12-inch wood dowels. So all of the DIYs in today's video are going to be themed around these that you can find at Dollar Tree, and I hope that this is a fun video for you all. I plan to do some other themed videos coming up in the future, so I hope that you enjoy today's video. If you do, please hit that like button, comment, and subscribe, and we'll go ahead and start creating. For our first project, you'll need one of these round mirrors from Dollar Tree. These are actually a little bit bigger than what they normally carry, and you're going to want to remove the mirror from the frame, and I had to break off one of these little plastic tabs in order to get the mirror out safely. Next, we'll be using some of these skewers, and I'm going to measure where the halfway mark is on these, and they're not quite 12 inches long, so it's just a little bit less than 12 inches. And I'm just going to cut a bunch of these in half, and then I'm going to go back through and cut those halves in half. So each skewer is cut in 4 equal pieces. Next, I started gluing these to the back of my mirror, and I made this V shape and glued down the ends. I did not add any glue where the 2 skewers meet for the V shape, because I didn't want to see the glue when you look at the front of the mirror. So they do stay together just fine. I did add a little bit extra glue on top of the skewers as well. I was just a little bit worried if the hot glue got cold with the mirror, then it might come off, but it did stick really well. I did not measure these at all while I was putting them around my mirror, but you of course can measure if you would like. And then I went back through and I put in a second row of this V shape, and it is filling in where the empty space is from where the other shapes were. You can see what I'm talking about. I'm not making much sense trying to explain it, but it's just really making this nice starburst pattern around the edge of my mirror. Again, I didn't measure where I put these down. I just glued them in place where I thought it looked good. And there are some other great patterns that you could do for a mirror like this as well. After all of my skewers were glued in place, I turned my mirror over and I wanted to add something to cover up that raw edge on the mirror. So you can use some rope from Dollar Tree, or I have this twine that's just a little bit thicker than the twine that you can find at Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use this. So I glued down the end so it stuck through a couple of the skewers and held in place, and so you don't see that end there. And then I just added my hot glue right on the edge of the mirror. Be careful because this edge is just a little bit sharp, and I just glued the twine in place going around my mirror. I only added the twine in one pass around my mirror, but you could go a couple other times around the mirror as well. And here's how that mirror turned out. I think a grouping of 3 of these would look really amazing together on a wall, and you could do some other patterns as well besides this starburst or sunburst pattern. For our next project, I'm going to be using one of these small floral foam balls that I found at Dollar Tree, and then I'll also be using some skewers. So I'm going to clip these skewers in half and then in quarters again, and then I'm also going to do some in thirds. So I have 2 different sizes here, and we're just going to start pushing them into this foam ball. And I just tried to space out where I put the longer skewers first. These are the ones that are 1/3 of a length of the large skewer, and then after I got all of those added in place, then I started to add in the smaller ones. And you just want to space them out evenly so you don't have a whole grouping of the same size next to each other. You can change up the lengths on these skewers as well and add some that are shorter if you would like and have 3 different sizes, whatever you think looks good. Also, I noticed some of them, the skewers would push out some other skewers, so just add some hot glue in there and put the skewer back in place if that happens. I wanted to spray paint this project so it's all one color, so I'm using this rust-oleum metallic gold, and I gave it one really good coat on the top side. Just make sure that you get that foam ball as well because it's white and it'll stand out a lot in the center there. So if you get it gold as well, then it doesn't show up as much. So then I flipped the whole project over and gave it one good coat on the other side as well. Here is how that project turned out, and I really love the look of this. You could also make a really large wall decor piece if you cut one of these foam balls in half and then used some of the skewers at their full length. For this next project, I'm going to use 3 of the 12-inch wood dowels and 1 of the 6-inch wood dowels, and we are going to spell out the word high. So you'll want to use a ruler and find the 6-inch mark on your 12-inch wood dowel and then glue that 6-inch wood dowel right there in place in the center on both of those 12-inch wood dowels in order to make your letter H. And then I'm going to be spray painting these with this rust-oleum ultra matte black color. You could use any color that matches your home decor. I just gave it one really good coat, and this wood does kind of soak up the spray paint a little bit, so you might have to give this a few coats just depending. And then I flipped it over and spray painted the other side as well just to make sure that I covered it really good. I did do 2 coats on the side that was going to be facing out. I saw a piece of decor like this on Instagram once. It was probably made out of metal, and I thought to myself I could make that for pennies with some wood dowels. So that's what I made, and I really love this project. Next, I'm going to use some of these really long bamboo skewers. They're about 36 inches, a little bit shorter than that. These are mostly out in the summertime. I had some on hand and then I had an idea for a project. So I know I didn't show these at the beginning of this video, but I did want to go ahead and put together this project, and you might have to wait till the summer in order to make one of these if you're interested in making one. So I did cut off the sharp end on these, and then I found that halfway point on each of these long skewers. The halfway point is going to be a little bit different for everybody depending on how much of that pointy end that you cut off, so just measure it. And then you'll want 10 of these. These are half of the long skewer. So I'm going to lay out 5 of them and then use one more, a 6th one, and I'm going to hot glue the ends of these to that crossbar. So you'll see here how I'm doing that. Just going to add some hot glue to each of the ends of the skewer pieces, and then I'm just spacing them out. I'm just using my eyeballs to figure this out, so you can measure these as well if you want. I just don't always like to measure things. And then what I'm going to do is I flipped it over and I'm adding a bar piece to the other side as well. Now these pieces might be a little bit different lengths once you go to glue them in place, so you might have to clip off just a little bit to make sure that they all reach that bar at the same length. I am putting together a 4x4 grid here. So next I'm going to add a bar right across the center and hot glue that in place. And then on each side of this, I'm going to add a bar to split the space on the right side there, and then add a bar to split the space on the left side as well. So it's a 4x4 grid. You can leave this natural color if you like, but I like spray painting it because then it can cover up any of that glue that's showing. So I did use the same matte black color, and I just gave it one really good coat, making sure that you get in all those little edges. And then what I did was I flipped it over and spray painted the other side of it, just one coat as well. Once I got that side covered, I flipped it back over and gave my finished side, the side that was going to be facing out, I gave that one more really good coat. And of course, you can spray paint this whatever colors match your decor. So I had the idea to use this as an organization piece. So I used some little clothespins and clipped on some papers. I also tied on some things with some twine. And you could make one of these with the full-size skewers as well, make it a lot bigger. My last project today is going to be a hanging planter, and I am going to use some of these 6-inch wood dowels. So I'm going to glue these first off together in a diamond shape. So they won't really meet up super well on the points, and I was afraid they wouldn't hold together very well that way. So I did glue one end of the dowel to the very last little bit of another dowel, if that makes sense. And then in the sides there where the two dowels come together, I added some hot glue to the end of each of the dowels, and I matched those up with each other. And then I just went back and added a little bit more hot glue where the two of those meet together. And you're not going to see this hot glue because I am going to paint it. And then I made another triangle shape coming up from the center of those two sides of my diamond shape. And you just want to make sure that your ends down there match up with your diamond corners so that you can glue all of this together. So I did add some hot glue and glued that together. So you can see how the shape is coming together here. And then the last piece today, you're going to hot glue in place from that peak point down to the bottom point of the diamond. Next, I cut out a piece of black poster board that's going to fit in the bottom half of that diamond shape. And I'm just going to fold this over once, and then I'm just going to have to trim it down so that it fits right in that diamond shape. And I want it to come out to the peak there. So I just trimmed off a little bit from each side. This is just a little bit of trimming, but you have a lot of poster board to work with if you don't get it right the first time. So you just want this to fit right there in that bottom portion, and this is going to hold whatever floral you add to this planter. It's going to hold it in place. So you're just trimming it down a little bit at a time to make it fit in that bottom portion. I folded over each of these back flaps that are sticking out here, so you just find where they meet up with the dowel piece and then just fold those over. And then you can see here how it fits inside right in the bottom portion of this wall hanging. You can see how all of the edges line up here, and there is that little gap in the back, but that's okay because you're not going to see the back once it's finished. And then I spray painted this as well with that gold metallic rust-oleum spray paint, gave it one good coat on top, and then I went ahead and just held it up and spray painted the back of it as well, just in case any of that was showing, and then one more good coat on the front side of it. And then I'm going to take this black cardstock piece, and I'm just going to add a little bit of glue along the edges of this gold frame so that it holds in place inside of that bottom portion of this wall hanging. You can add some florals right to the top of this, or I'm going to put them in one of these plastic terracotta pots. And I just used some floral greenery that I already had on hand. So this is not from Dollar Tree. I'm not even sure where it came from, but I just liked how flowy it was, and you can find something similar at Dollar Tree. Here's how that wall hanging project turned out. You don't have to use the terracotta pot. If you do decide to put something inside of there, just make sure it's not something too heavy. You don't want to use an actual terracotta pot. And those are all of the projects that I have to share with you today using those dowels and skewers from Dollar Tree. Let me know down in the comments if you would like to see more themed videos like this one. I hope that you have enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!